Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shivataparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrashabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we'll continue with the reading from Bhagavad-gītā as it is, from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, founder-ācārya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we are reading chapter 3, which is entitled Karma Yoga, and it's about working with knowledge and detachment, which is for the pleasure of the Lord, and that is better than false renunciation. And we are in the section where Krishna is telling Arjuna to set proper example. So that's why he should perform his duties, and it should be also without attachment. Last time Krishna was speaking mostly about ignorant people, how they perceive the reality, because there is false ego involved in it. So they think that they are doers. And also how devotees or those who are in Krishna consciousness can engage them in some activities for their purification. And also how is what is the difference, because ignorant people and devotees also, they both are doing some activities. So also it seems from external point of view that there is no difference, but the difference is in consciousness. And also we speak about the imitation and following of highly elevated personalities, that we should not imitate their supernatural activities, but rather follow their, let's say, daily routines and things like that. So, continue. Shloka 28. Tatvavittu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayoho guna guneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjate. Tatvavit, the knower of the absolute truth, two, but mahabaho, almighty arm one, guna karma, of works under material influence, vibhagayoho, differences, gunaha, senses, guneshu, in sense gratification, vartante, are being engaged. Iti, dus matva, thinking, na, never sajjate, becomes attached. Translation: one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty arm, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. Purport: the knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and that his position shouldn't be in the material creation. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge, and he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in the material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavid. For he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. So here Krishna is speaking about Tattvavid, the knower of the absolute truth. And this person knows his position. He knows the difference between devotion, work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So that's why he's not engaging himself in the materialistic association or materialistic or material work. And rather he prefers to work for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even when because he is in the material world, so he's understanding that this position is not natural, and also that there are some material reactions. So yes, okay, he's there, so he's tolerating whatever comes, and desires the higher goal or is engaged for higher purposes. Okay, 329. Prakriter guna samudhah sajante guna karmasu tana kritsna vido mandan kritsna vinna vichalayet. Prakriteha of material nature, guna by the modes, samudhaha befooled by material identification, sajante they become engaged, guna karmasu in material activities, tan those, akritsna vidaha persons with a poor fount of knowledge, mandan lazy to understand self-realization. Kritsnavid, one who is in factual knowledge, not. Vichala yet should try to agitate. Translation: bewildered by the modes of material nature, they ignore and fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Purport: persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called manda, or a lazy person without understanding of spirit soul. Ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. So these people are, or these ignorant people are somehow ignoring anything what is spiritual, and they basically do whatever they can perceive by their senses, which is tangible for them. So something they can see or see the direct immediate results of this is their activities, because they are grossly in the bodily consciousness. So they are engaging in social work, nationalism, altruism, and various basically materialistic activities. Even religion for them is just for the sake of doing some rituals, and there it ends. So it's more like social function sometimes when they are performing these religious rituals. And yes. But here Krishna is saying that those who are in knowledge, they should not unsettle them, but there is also possibility to engage in them in some basic moral principles like non-violence, because with non-violence, at least something can be closer to spirituality. Even in later chapters, in chapter 12, Krishna will speak about the various levels of engagement. When person is not able to be in full Krishna consciousness, there are also several other options. So basically, this materially benevolent work or doing something like charity is also one of these options for them. At least they are doing in something what is defined in the scripture. So they are in the better position. Okay, but here we'll add something more to it. Okay, men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risk, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So we see what one thing is recommended by the Lord, but devotees, since they know Lord very well and know what is his desire, so still they are trying to fulfill this desire, even by taking the risk that they kind of disobey this order of not disturbing the ignorant people, because they are acting for the higher purpose, and this is to please the Lord, to bring this ignorant souls back to him. So even there was, I think it was, I'm not sure now, some Acharya in the past, he got mantra from his guru, and his guru told him that you should not tell this mantra to anyone because it's very confidential mantra. So he was chanting this mantra and realized that it is very powerful, that is, he could perceive the effect of this mantra. So he came to some public place in the village and told all the people that they should gather there, and he revealed this mantra. He told this mantra to all the people, and this news came to the guru, and guru was very disturbed, like why he did reveal this secret mantra. And then he explained that he could not keep it just for himself, because he saw how people are suffering. So they also, he saw that they also need help. So that's why, and then Guru understood that that this is really higher purpose than what he was telling him before. So this is what devotees are doing. Devotees are taking various risks, even sometimes risking their own lives, just to bring these ignorant people again to Krishna consciousness. Okay, 3:30. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Mai, unto me, sarvani, all sorts of karmani, activities, sanyasya, giving up completely, adhyatma, with full knowledge of the self, chetasa, by consciousness, nirashihi, without desire for profit, nirmamaha, without ownership, bhutva, so being, yudhyasva, fight, vigata, jvaraha, without being lethargic. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Purport. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad-gītā. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties, as if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. One has to sacrifice everything for the good will of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas. Nirashihi means that one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. This is the real purport of Mai, or unto me. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. His consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become Vigatajvara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. So Krishna is specifying here some requirements how to be engaged in these activities, in one's duties in Krishna consciousness. So everything should be surrendered unto him as a sacrifice, and one should be in full knowledge of Krishna also, so also of his own position. Then without desires for profit means anyway everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. And yeah, also one should not, how to say, one is no claiming of proprietorship, and desires for profit is a little bit different. Claims to proprietorship means that everything belongs to the Lord, but profit is that we could expect something from this activity, because how to say, some results will be coming. So anyway, we should not desire this also. So we are working with propriety with property of someone else, and also we are not expecting the results of this work. And free from lethargy, I think there was something, I had some comment on this. Yes, without lethargy means that he should be situated above the modes of nature. Desires basically, where is it? Without desires for profit means without the mode of passion, and lethargy is mode of ignorance. So this is there decoded or encoded in this statements also, that this means above the modes of nature, above the lower modes. And Srila Prabhupada is saying here very strictly that one should fulfill these orders like in military discipline, so there should not be any hesitation. Even he's saying here that reluctance should be thrown off, so very like without any how to say, not compassion, but kind of soft heart, or how to say it. One should be very strict in executing and ignoring the desires of the mind in this regard, which are not in line with these orders. Okay, so comment. Yes, big risks devotees are taking to preach. Yes, yes. Definitely. I even know one devotee who was in one of these, I think it was Iran is the proper pronunciation. Iran, that or maybe one country along about or around this country is there. So he stayed until such time that even he was in the risk of his own life, and then he really left the country because otherwise he could be killed. So up to this point, he was preaching all the way. Okay, Shloka 31. Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manavaha shradhavanto nasuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhihi. Ye, those who may my matam injunctions idam this nityam as an eternal function, anutishtanti execute regularly, manavaha human beings, shradhavantaha with faith and devotion, anasuyantaha without envy, muchyante become free, te all of them, api even karmabhi from the bondage of the law of fruitive actions. Translation: those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Purport: the injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad-gītā but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. So, Krishna is speaking here that we should perform this or execute his injunctions with faith, so, and without envy also. So then we are on the path to liberation. And this is very important, that this intention of our endeavor is there, that despite whether we are executing these activities or these orders perfectly or not, but still we are continuing, and still we are trying again and again, and ultimately even this work may become higher in quality after some time, because we are getting better and better and we are endeavoring, so naturally it will, or it may come better. But even despite that, if there is defeat and hopelessness, as Prabhupada is saying here, and Prabhupada is a very good example of this, because basically it took him maybe more than 40 years, I think, until he was successful in coming to the West and starting to preach there in English language, as his Guru Maharaj was telling him, ordered him in somewhere 1922, I think, and Prabhupada came in 66 or 65. He came in 66. He established ISKCON. So it's more than 40 years. And really, when he was in these last years in India, he was fighting with so many things. Like, basically, he could not get any support from government or any officials. Whatever he was trying, everything was like failure. Even some of his God brothers were persuading him that he should not do this, and other people also, but still he was trying, because he was so, this is what is Krishna is saying here, with faith. So Prabhupada has full faith in the order of his spiritual master, and then that's why he was so successful, because he was persevering whatever was happening with him. Even in America, when he came there, it was not easy in the beginning. Sometimes he even has a lot of difficulties with his accommodation, or he was just strolling somewhere outside in the streets, because once he had some crazy roommate, so he had to leave his room very, very quickly, because this roommate was on some drugs, some intoxicants, so he was very aggressive towards Srila Prabhupada. So he was, even in the West, when he ultimately came there, still he was struggling so much. Then also his constant health problems, which he had, his heart attacks and like that. So many struggles, but he never gave up. He was just continuing the execution of order of his spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada is example for us in this, for this verse specifically. But anyway, he's example on all the verses, because he is also mentioned as there is a Bhagavata as a book, and also there is a Bhagavata as a person. So person who is acting according to the book, all the injunctions which are in the book, either Bhagavad-gītā or Śrīmad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada was personification of these books also. Okay. Some more comments. Yes, especially in Islamic countries, very high risks. Yes, yes. And Prabhupada was also mentioning that those who are going to preach in Islamic countries, that he will take their dust of their feet on his head. He was so much appreciating that those people are going there. There's devotees that are taking these risks. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you very much. Śrīmad Bhagavad-gītā ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki jai.